Hey, your broomstick is back.
Well, this looks like it. It's not working. I'll just put it there for the.
It's not the candlestick that you usually use, right?
Mm-mm, no.
So we're live now, right? Let's see. I've just entered the Canva stuff in there, so we're good. However, I have to still switch back and forth with my. Hmm, let's see what this does. You hear some bubbles?
hmm
All right, so we're live on Canva and we're live on LinkedIn. So that means it's time to get started with your weekly Ask Me Anything of healthcare AI. Today's episode, right? Today's discussion topic is healthcare, and healthcare is very personal. Tremendous. Yes, Vivek, I'm trying out buttons, and the first one popped up is bubbles. It's going good, Vivek. How are you? Feel free to ask any question. U.S. Army representation here. Please represent Army all day. This is a veteran-friendly zone. Yep. Thank you for your service, Vivek. I'm a Air Force guy myself, and yep, yep. Appreciate you joining in and listening in. Feel free to ask any questions and add your comments. Um, we've been discussing AI machine learning for any industry that we can think of because it's a fun topic. Not only do I get to learn with my guest, right, but I also get to share some of the knowledges, right? Because wherever there's data, there's definitely some AI machine learning use cases, right? Uh, I think I think we can agree to that, Lucky, right?
hmm Yeah.
The the amount of data that we have worldwide and per industry amount of data that we have, they all have some similarities. And if we start with the similarities, we can see how each AI use cases can be interpreted differently in each industry, but every industry can adapt to an AI that has been developed for another industry. And my favorite go-to is Hollywood CGIs, right? Deep fake, one that we've been talking about, um, and creating like lots of chaoses, a lot of bad things, right? But CGIs, right? They're artificial intelligence. Hollywood uses them. Hollywood creates all these motion pictures using artificial intelligence. How does that impact healthcare industry? Because if you can imagine, if you're able to capture better images of your X-rays and MRIs using enablers of the images with AI machine learning, some of the procedures we have to do these days might not be required in the future, right? We might be able to get rid of some of the steps that we have to go through in order to find out, what sort of problems are we dealing with, what sort of healthcare issues that we have, um, just don't take the jobs away. I'm on a data team studying ground rules for data dictionary in a software development organization. Yeah, done data dictionary, and data dictionaries are not anybody's favorite topic. Just like data cataloging, data dictionary is not anybody's favorite topic to discuss, but it's the crucial piece to be a successful implementer of AI machine learning. You know, so I have Lucky here with me. Lucky, you know your data very well. So tell us what's up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with AI, it's always going to be, what you put in is what you, as far as what the data goes, a garbage in, garbage out, or, if the data is good, then the AI, you'll tend to have more success building some kind of AI model or um, uh, deep learning model or machine learning model. And yeah, it's easier said than done. I'm a data guy. I've dealt with different types of data, and now we're looking at, how do we take our data and apply machine learning to it? What type of statistical, algorithm can we apply to our data to show us something that we didn't see before, or give us a different perspective. And those that's where we're at now. That's where a lot of the data guys like myself, we were just database guys, and now we're able to see our data from a different perspective, and we're not necessarily having to put together the views, or the code. Now it's statistical there. You can actually, there's stuff in the cloud where you can just take your data and then apply machine language or machine learning to it, and that's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. And again, it comes down to what your data is and what you're trying to achieve. But it goes from analyzing data to an AI to be able to um, reduce the amount of overhead when it comes to processes that are repeatable. And so at the end, AI is going to be a way to help us and augment who we are. It's not going to be necessarily taking away jobs. As long as we're prepared for AI, I think it's going to be more like another hammer in our tool belt that helps us, enable us to make better decisions. But again, long-winded, it's all about the data.
It, if I could get that message across to everybody, say like, look, this is nothing new, this is nothing
Mhm.
complex. It's all about the data. And here's the problem. Just like you said, garbage in and garbage out, there's lots of AIs out there that's literally spilling out garbage. And we cannot detect
Mhm.
that because we don't know our data. If you knew your data, how it would go in and how it would play out at the end, that will tell you everything about all this garbage AI that you see today. And I know I'm generalizing AI here,
Mhm.
right? But it's pretty much garbage in that produces a machine learning capability. And that machine learning capability is what we label as an AI, right? Because we tend to mystify a product by calling it AI. Call it a machine learning, you might lose 75% of your audience, right?
Mhm.
um, Charles Babbage Giga from yesteryears. Yeah. So if you're able to identify the data, if you knew your data, and you see the output, you would say like, yeah, whatever went in, it didn't really do much. It's the same garbage that just came out on the other side, right? But if you're able to understand the hidden layer, the complexity, now you're able to say like, okay, not only do I know my data, but I'm able to optimize that data to make more out of it, right? We tell stories with data. If we are able to conceptualize the fact that AI machine learning is nothing without data, and data is what AI machine learning is, you come off from that standpoint of like, okay, I have to be afraid of this technology. I have to be really thinking about really hard or learn a completely new something else. If you just start calling machine learning data manipulation, you come to a different conclusion, right?
Mhm.
And Michio Kaku, I was watching Michio Kaku on a podcast the other day, and he put it very well. He just put it simply. It's nothing but a bunch of words coming together with ChatGPT. There's nothing to be super afraid of ChatGPT for, right?
Mhm.
Problems that you will run into is when somebody for with bad intention optimizes that ChatGPT for bad purposes. That's when you have to start worrying about it. And that's why you have to know your data very well and you have to know the hidden layers very well. So you're able to find out these are the ways people will optimize it. And when they do optimize it, I'm able to identify how it's been optimized,
Mhm.
right? And healthcare, whoo, that is a industry that you do not want to have bad actors optimizing your data, somebody else's data, or data that will get you into legal troubles, or just by having sabotages in your data, right? Poisoning your data. You don't
Mhm.
want that, right? But before I jump too far into the scary scenarios, let me get on with my mission here, right? This weekly webinar is to have a comfortable communications about AI machine learning requirements. That's the goal, right? We want to do this weekly webinar. We've done property technology, prop tech real estate webinar, where we talked about AI machine learning for that. We talked about educational AI machine learning. We talked about finance AI machine learning, workforce, right? Please don't replace me on my job type of conversations. So we're having different topics in a weekly webinar, and we like to have these weekly discussions so that way we can get everybody kind of comfortable about this topic, because more you approach it with fear, more you will distance yourself, right? So approach this with some comfort in able to communicate to whoever it is you're communicating to, either be it your decision makers, your money spenders, or your CIO, CFOs,
Hmm.
all levels of your organization. If not, at least to your kids, right? I think that's one of the topics that we discussed last week, is that we said, no, how do you comfortably communicate AI machine learning to your kids? So that way they're able to approach this topic and say, like, I'm going to live with AI machine learning for the rest of my life. How do I understand the hidden layer? How do I understand the data? And how do I understand what it is being optimized, and how am I being either manipulated, right, by
Hmm.
machine learning, or am I being served very well for with AI machine learning? We have to have these dialogues and communications, because Castle Run.
Yeah. Yeah. Where's the middle ground? Where's the, hey, we're serving you, we're providing you something that you need, and the other is, hey, wait a minute, that's my backside. You're not supposed to see that. That's my private area. So what is the middle ground, and that's the million-dollar question right now, between, you know, what's in the Americas as far as what's considered privacy, and then you look at the rest of the world. Everybody has a different perspective, but at the end, that data is going to be what either helps us, Alexa, always listening, giving us, feedback, positive things that we need, or is it, it knows too much? How was Alexa developed? How was that model, that natural language model, over a period of time? It had to listen to us. So at the end, what is your comfort zone with AI and how it supports us or it gives us better ways of making decisions?
And this dialogue, it's what we've been having in our podcast repeatedly, right? But finally, I think we're coming to the point where I'm able to say,
Hmm.
how do we help everybody else to communicate uh, clearly, right? How do we help them to demystify some of these concepts and say, like, yeah, this is just labeled differently. That's all. It's the same old data that we've been hassling and harassing ourselves for the last 30 years because we said, if you don't have the data, you're falling behind. If you don't have the data, you have all sorts of issues in the futures, or you're not going to be able to do so much, right? I think it just comes down to data. Like, we keep repeating that over and over, data. If we think about it, what's happening today is that we're not able to articulate our requirements based on those data. So that's the second
Hmm.
part of the mission.
Yeah.
How do you comfortably discuss AI machine learning, and how do you comfortably discuss your requirements? So that way, let's say, for example, Vivek, he works with data. I bet people like Vivek has tons of problems by people that don't want to listen to what Vivek has to say. And I can point out why, as Vivek is discussing the topic, they're not able to comprehend some of those topics, right? Because the labeling has changed. If we talk just in the data sense, people actually tend to listen more, right? But when we start adding AI, machine learning, deep learning, these concepts of like statistics and mathematics, people tend to shy away from this. They're like, you know what? I'm not even going to ask any questions about that, because that's just something I'm not comfortable discussing. I might be saying the wrong things to the wrong person,
Hmm.
right? And I've been in touch with lots of veterans since I got out of the military. And I discussed this topic over and over, all with all the military guys. First of all, we have military jargon. Second of all, you have AI machine learning jargon. And then when you're trying to convey using any jargon, it doesn't work, because we understand data far better than we understand AI machine learning or statistics or mathematics, hidden layers, and the black box, whatever you want to call it, right? We want to be able to communicate this clearly. And exactly, it's a new terminology, same meaning, right? New terminology, and new terminology helps us sell, right? And
Hmm.
that, there's no doubt about it. This is a marketing world that we live in, and it's fine. I think we have our job cut out for us if we just talk data only, right? How do I take, let's say, for example, on this slide, healthcare delivery, healthcare delivery data, which has happened already, right? And say, how do I take that data and optimize it? Because I know I have a data processing power, because I have cloud. I have um, access to cloud. I have access to the basement where I have all my servers. If I'm able to process my data for all the healthcare delivery data that I have, how do I optimize that for our machine learning purposes? And I think lucky we have multiple thousands of examples of what you did with your data warehouse and diagnosis.
Hmm.
We can talk about that. But if we're talking about like what's already available, that the data that's already accessible, how do you process that data and how do you optimize it? And how do you engage with the subject matter experts that will create your optimization to a scale that will be utilized by everybody else, right? So I think I'll say it again. If you have the data, you have to understand your data processing.
Hmm.
Once you understand your data processing and you have your subject matter expert involved, now you're able to optimize that data for the subject matter experts to use, plus all the people that will benefit from this delivery of optimized AI machine learning capability, right? Army AITC is a huge data-driven endeavor. Oh yeah, yeah. So you got AI2C, you have Vantage, you have Advana. So if you're looking at Advana, that's your latest one. AI2C is great. If you need help, go to Vantage. If you're with the Department of Health Agency, right, DHA, or if you're part of Army anywhere, you can actually reach out to Vantage and they will help you along with Advana and AI2C. But if you're not in the Army and you want to reach out to Jake, Joint Artificial Intelligence Center, they will also help you, right? So you got lots of assistance with your data. So you can process your data. You're able to engage with the subject matter experts in this field, and then also optimize your data for purposes of, let's say, healthcare delivery or patient outcomes or data privacy, whatever the case is. How are you trying to secure your system using cybersecurity and AI machine learning? Let's get it started on the bottom of the mountain, because there's definitely a uphill battle to get to the top of the mountain. So we definitely want to get started. Let's see. Um, well, let's move on to the next slide. I think I already talked about everything here, right? We talked about data processing. You're able to human in the loop, right? Your subject matter
Hmm.
experts, and then you're able to optimize it. And when you optimize it, I want to point this out again. I think I've done it for the last 2 weeks of weekly webinar. That Elon Musk, Yuval Noah Harari, and Steve Wozniak, and 1,000 other people that wrote the letter to say shut down all the AI labs, shut down all the AI research until we can discuss. We need to discuss optimization. That's their main concern. Their main concern is not this. Let me be bold and say dumb Chat GPT.
Hmm.
Chat GPT does excellent because it's optimized. It really doesn't do anything other than put a bunch of words together that are human language. And it's able to optimize those human language in a very, very fast data processing style. As in, it processes the data so fast, it's able to optimize it to give you an answer that me and you ourselves might not be able to get together in, like, that fast, right? It's our human capability in optimizing the human capability very fast using data processing and the fast internet, of course, to have it sent to your local device so you're able to experience that optimization. Um, I think I lost my chain of thoughts here. So, Lucky, you have anything to add to this?
Well, when it comes to the data optimization, you brought up a couple of things, but when it comes to AI, and it really comes down to, you can't just. I've developed data warehouses in the past, data marts, databases, and the goal at the end is not to have an AI to have an AI. You really got to work and massage your data and find out if your data speaks to you in a way where you can develop AI type of models. And so, the way we're going now with healthcare and AI, there's a lot of different areas that are advancing. One is Alzheimer and dementia, where they're taking AI, and just by your voice, they're able to see and predict whether or not you're a candidate or not a candidate. But there is a possibility that you
Possibility.
may
Yeah.
have Alzheimer or dementia genes, and they're able to predict that. And that type of stuff, that type of data is immeasurable, when it comes to applying to you. And so, when it comes to data, again, what is your data? Is it a repeatable process? Are you looking to change the way we look at healthcare? AI is driving a lot of different markets, a lot of different industries in different ways. And so when it comes to your data again, it depends. That's the best way I can say it. It depends. But again, you have a high number of failure rate when it comes to trying to look for that artificial intelligence gold mine. 80, you said 87% of the projects that are attempted for AI fail, or 85%, I forget what the number is.
Right.
But at the end, you're searching for AI. And instead, you should be looking at your data and seeing what options you have with data and if it can turn into some type of model that you can grow. But I'll leave it at that. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think as you're discussing these breakdowns, right? Look, we talked about data processing, we talked about optimization. Now what, right? What do you do next? Do you buy an AI? Do you develop an AI, or do you get impacted by an AI? As in, you don't really have to do any of that, right? You're just observing, you're just seeing things flow, right? I think you fall into the first two categories most of the time. You can develop an AI for yourself, or you can buy an AI. And if you're buying an AI from Microsoft, say for example, as a service, you're still okay because you're able to do faster data processing anyway, right? You're able to read your emails faster. You're able to communicate with your whoever it is on the other side of the email inbox that will receive that email, right? So you're able to communicate faster because of AI. So even if you don't buy an AI, even if you don't develop an AI, you'll be impacted by an AI. You'll be the user of AI, right?
Mhm.
At all levels, you have to understand how it is that AI is improving over time and how it is able to do more and help you more and augments you more, right? So as we're moving forward with AI machine learning, I think actually I thought I had a different slide than in this one. Sorry. But as you're moving forward with AI, you have to become more conscious of the fact that like there's multiple AIs, and how do you incorporate more AIs with other AIs, right? Well, let me repeat that again. If you have an AI and you've developed an AI and you like it and you love it and you want to improve that AI, there's other AIs that you can incorporate. So when you start with your designing of your AI that you will develop, or you're buying an AI that you want to use today, now start thinking about how do you develop more AI to augment that AI that you will buy, or how do you buy more AI to augment the one that you will develop, right? So let me take a pause here before I move on to the next slide here. But I want to know, like, for example, Vivek, once you listen to this presentation, help me understand how I can convey machine learning with much more clarity. What are some of the changes that I can make to the presentation? What are some of the things that I can do better? Give me some feedback. So help me understand how I can convey AI machine learning easier or easily to the audience of any sort, any kind, so that way I don't miss out on an audience that just says, you know what, I heard a Steve talk, but I don't want to say nothing because he said something that confused me, right? So please, yeah, see, that's exactly. Instead of using a bunch of words, I could have just said additive AI, and that's how I love my feedbacks, right? I'm able to adapt myself to do better in communication by using less words. Additive AI, love that. So what do you need to take away from this presentation, right? Just like you will find a use case that you want to develop an AI for, to augment your workflow, your business process, you go through the process of identifying, labeling it, and make a decision on it, right? You make a decision to say, we need this AI. We need to develop it or buy it, or we need to be impacted by it, as in somehow be augmented by it or be assisted by that AI. Now, let me give you another secret. That's exactly what machine learning does. So if you're developing machine learning, your machine learning system will have to learn how to identify by data processing and how to label using your human intelligence to help that system to understand what labeling is. How do you identify data? And once you identify that data, how do you label that data correctly? And if you're able to label that data, when you optimize it, you're able to make decisions by labeling those data. right? Um, and what happens over time with decisions making is that human intelligence kicks in. Human intelligence is to say, because I've made so many decisions, now I no longer have to go through those 3 steps. I'm always predictive. I'm always predicting what it is that I can label and make decisions on without making those decisions actually. And we can go far into those topics in a later time with your Q&A. Um, yeah, I'm loving all the comments from Vivek. Um, perfect, man. DU. What does DU stand for, Vivek? And to wrap up that input and machine learning and output values, that's exactly what machine learning does, right? It takes that identification, labels it, and then makes a decision. Now, let me tell you also this. Just like I said, your brain does the same. Your 5 sensors feeds the data into the brain. Data processes inside of your subconscious mind, where you're able to identify, label, and make decisions all simultaneously in a blink of an eye. Actually, less than that. It's very, very fast decision making capability. Earlier, I mentioned that I think Vivek just pointed out additive AI, right? So if you're developing a medical diagnosis tool, right? Say you're developing it, but you want to be able to buy a image recognition. You want to be able to have automatic language translation. Last week I presented to the Department of Air Force's CIO summit, and one of the use cases I made there is that if you have a medical device that is able to translate, right, the outcome of that medical diagnosis in any language possible, think about the outreach that you will be able to do, through your medical services worldwide. You deploy to a disaster location and you're able to do medical diagnosis and provide that medical diagnosis directly to the patient using automatic language translation, right? Why would a medical diagnosis might be able to do self-driving cars? I don't know. Maybe because an ambulance, the future ambulance just pulls up to your house and says, you're having a little heart pain. Let me diagnose you. Self-driving cars, because the EMT is not busy with driving a car. He's just able to sit in the car and take care of the patient, right? We can talk about cross points where AI machine learning is able to integrate for better and faster service in the future, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was a lot of rambling, but I hope that kind of made sense, right? What do you say, Lucky?
No, I agree. I think in the future, they've done a lot with telehealth, and I think that with more of the growth of IoT devices and all, we're just another, Apple Watch or some kind of modern device, and not the same for Apple, but a Fitbit, they all monitor our health already. I have this thing telling me, Mr. Rabago, you have a concern with your heart. Because my heart rate's really low.
Yeah.
And for people that are not aware, that don't have insurance, and I'm not saying that this is going to replace it, but a commercial product that can tell you where you're at, your health is fantastic. And over time, there's going to be a network of healthcare providers that at some point will be able to look at these little IoT devices and be able to say, hey, look, you know what? You are a candidate for X. You've been diagnosed by your IoT device, whatever it is, the AI has said, you know what, you are a candidate, and we're here to save your life, and that's irreplaceable. I mean, you talk about the advances in healthcare. We're always behind. We're in action behind. We're never proactive, and AI would give us that next level of proactive. And I say proactivity, but you're going to be proactively diagnosing and helping people in the future, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, I have full discussions that we can have on these topics, because what about reverse engineering from what you just said to a point to say, like, we already have those devices in millions of people's hands. How is a medical facility, let's say in a zip code, providing services to people around here? How can we reverse engineer all this data to a point that we can bring it to the medical facility and provide better patient outcomes, right? As in, we're able to help our patient far more with these capabilities that we can either buy or develop or just augment ourselves with, right? And those are the discussions that we want to have. So um, I would definitely encourage anybody that has any questions on this topic, or your team has any questions on this topic, feel free to reach out, right? Let me know on my inbox or comment here, and let me know like how it is that we can reverse engineer, and how can we help you to gather requirements on this topic, right? It's super important that we do, because it takes time, and it takes lots of, how many years would you say, Lucky? Like these days, probably not years, but months. But at least it'll
Yeah,
be,
years.
right?
Years. Yeah, but I mean, you bring up a good point. I mean, and me just maybe going too far down the rabbit hole is we're so used to having centralized medical care. And this sounds more of decentralized medical care, where now the medical care is being coming to you as opposed to you going to the provider. And so, I mean and going too far, but definitely there's a lot of advances there. But yeah.
Absolutely, because the use cases that we can identify today, by next 3 months, I don't know where it's going to be. And I want to stop right there, because
Hmm.
this one has been bugging me so much for so many years, and finally I have some validation. And I hope there's no false information here. I'm providing you with an accurate information, which I saw on LinkedIn, and it's from Vice.com. So I'm hoping that I can rely on the news sources here, because it came so fast. All right, so ready, right? This is healthcare. They scanned human brain, and they were able to interpret the thoughts of the human brain using ChatGPT. So let me repeat that news without,
Wow.
confusing myself. They were able to read a human thought, what was going on in human brain as far as thought goes, using ChatGPT, using a medical device.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop right there. That's giving me a chill.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So that
Elon Musk said that we in 5 years, he said it 2 years ago. Then 5 years, we would be communicating without verbal communication. We'd be communicating using
oh,
Bluetooth or some kind of protocol. So
and I cannot emphasize this enough. I'm going to
wow.
emphasize this again. Probably, I do this a lot in the podcast, and I do this a lot in my communications. But let me emphasize this with what I just said about the MRI able to read your mind. So, don't have to be that sophisticated. But if you envision yourself 10 years from now picking up a phone call and giving a simple instruction to somebody, you're doing it wrong, because our communication skills will get to a point where
Mhm.
just by typing in an information like a prompt in ChatGPT, you're able to communicate with hundreds of people and letting them know what it is that you need them to get done. So if you're calling up your secretary, if you're calling up your assistants, if you're calling up your executives for some reason, you're doing it wrong. You haven't prepared yourself to say, just like last 50 years, I've been picking up phones and communicating directly to people, because you can cut down on so much of your communications if you had it automated by an artificial intelligence. And that's literally where the world is heading towards right now. And I cannot emphasize that, because this MRI is just one piece of the puzzle. There's so many other automations that are happening right now, where Google AI is able to call up a pizza parlor and able to order whatever that you want from the pizza place, right? And the communication was very minimal. You just typed in a text saying, "I want a large pizza, no pineapples, please, delivered to my house at 7 o'clock." And the phone call happened to the business just like a regular human would, because it was an AI that was actually making that phone call and placing that order. So I just want to leave it right there, because this gives me chill, and I'm super pumped up and excited about it. um, So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We will, you know, broadcast this about 4 more times every week on a pre-recorded, right, for you to view. Yeah, Vivek, I know I'm pumped up about these topics. I love talking about these. So come and listen to our podcast. We do a weekly podcast where we have different um, genres of guests come in and discuss the topics of AI machine learning. Um, you learn something every time. I think I learn every time I have a new guest to say like different problems and different solutions to that. Very entertaining, you know.
Definitely.
So, Lucky, any departing thoughts?
No, no, I just I look forward to having more conversations about what AI will do for us in the future, and learning more from our guests, and again from anyone that joins the podcast and has questions at the end. If we don't know the answer, it's something that will drive us. So thank you all for being part of this.
Thank you, Lucky, for taking the time on your middle of the week to join me, and this is exciting stuff. So I will talk to you soon. Thank you all. Yeah, Vivek, this is amazing what's happening in the world right now. But yeah, please do hit me up, Vivek, and any questions or concerns that you have, let me know. I literally can create a whole weekly webinar based on your questions, right?
Hmm.
Because more questions you send me, I'm able to pick and choose that and have the subject matter come in and discuss the topic. So that way we can create a bigger picture for ourselves if we're trying to solve a problem here. So thank you, Lucky. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you guys next week.